Hello and welcome to my very first quick tutorial. My name is James Kelman and today I want to show you how I created this little video here. Okay, so at first let's take a look at the setup and the animations. As you can see here, the main plate is just a default plane object and all the details you saw in the video came from the displacement map I used. Let's start the Octane Live viewer so we can see what's going on here. Change the view a bit. You can see all the geometry in a scene are just the light objects. Let's stop the live viewer here so we get a better viewport feedback. All of the animations are made with plane effectors or random effectors. Let's take a look at the tubes. Here we have just some capsules on a MoGraph cloner. And each cloner has its own plane effector with a uniform scale set to -1 and a fall off set to box. And basically I just animated the position of the cloner using the signal plugin by Grayscale Gorilla. Next, let me show you the pins here. These little guys. And they are just randomly switching on and off using a random effector. And in this effector you just have to check the visibility and you don't have to set anything else. And maybe you noticed that I have a cache tag on a cloner. You get it via MoGraph cache tag, and then you can bake the random animation. I recommend to do this before it goes to rendering because the effector is really, like the name says, random. Means every time you get a little bit different animation. And by caching them you can make sure every time you restart or just jump around, your animation isn't off somehow. All other objects are either static or animated with this little random effector as well. All you have to do now is to position your light elements so they are nicely integrated in the displacement map. You can do this either by using your viewport and a live viewer side by side, or for the case you're using Octane version 4 or later, you can also go to Options and check Viewport Rendering and navigate directly in a viewport. Okay, so finally let's take a look at the materials. And we start with the material of our main plate here. As you can see here we have a black glossy material and a metal material as well. With roughness set to 0.1, index of 4 and sheen roughness set to 0.2. Then we have the most important one, our displacement map. I used this one here. And it's driven by a displace node. Amount is set to 100, but that depends on your scene scale. And level of detail should be set to 8K for your final rendering, even if you have just a 2K or 4K map. The filter type set to box helps smoothing out the edges a little bit. But don't crank up the filter radius too much. So as you can see here, I also plugged in a normal map. This one is like a little helper for the displacement map, because it tells the geometry in which direction it has to go. And in that way it supports your displacement map. I have a little comparison here, so you can see one is just the displacement map and one is displacement map combined with normal map. It helps clearing out especially the small areas. Okay, we have our two basic materials here. Now let's dive into the more interesting part and set up this kind of a used metal look. I'm using a noise node here with a Perlin noise and a dirt node as well. Both are combined with a multiply node, and this one is plugged in a gradient. The gradient itself is set to linear, and there you can use grayscale values to drive where the metal comes through. Let's zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. For example, if I change this one here and go a bit darker and drag the white a little bit over there, it's a little bit more splotchy looking. Also, you can remove this one here completely and you end up having the metal just at the edges. You can make the edges thinner when you drag these two nodes more to the left. Okay, so that's it for the material of the main plate. Now let's take a look at the light materials. For the pins you can see here, I used a diffuse material with a texture emission. And in the texture slot of it, I plugged in a Gaussian spectrum. So I got a pretty simple blue light. And then we have these tubes here, for example. The materials are a little bit different because they are using a blackbody emission. And to get the multicolor, I plugged in a JPEG of a gradient. You can download some, for example, at this Tumblr page here. It is called Colorful Gradients, and I'll put a link in the description. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. Thank you very much and goodbye.